Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are regarded as some of the most difficult mainline Pokemon games, but they're also beloved for other aspects: the region, the characters, the breadth of content, all things I didn't experience back when Ultra Sun and Moon released in 2017, as I basically skipped the entire 7th generation of Pokemon and I was busy doing other things in my life at the time, like hard crack. But I played through Pokemon Sun last year for the first time and really enjoyed it, so let's finally see what all the fuss is about with the Ultra versions. I'm attempting a Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge in Pokemon Ultra Moon, which means if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead forever. The rest of the rules are on screen and in the description. Two things to note before we begin. First, while I did my Sun playthrough blind, this Ultra Moon playthrough won't be, because I've gotten familiar with these games. Second, my starter. I chose Popplio in Sun, so I wanted to try something different this time, but I just can't get over my dislike for Incineroar. Also, and as a former Pokemon Unite player, I am conditioned to kill Decidueye on sight, which is kinda counterproductive for a Nuzlocke. So we're bringing back Singed for another round of Alola. Listen Singed, I know you've already completed your character arc in the Sun video and don't have much of a reason to leave your current digs, but I also really need someone to click Moonblast again. I'll pay you in Pokebeans. Attaboy, welcome back Singed, you even got a special attack lowering nature again. Singed is soon joined by Grubbin, and together they breeze past some guy named after an adverb, letting us acquire Vel'Koz the Inkay, Yumi the Alolan Meowth, and Naafiri the Furfrou. Naafiri has a debilitating minus attack nature, which doesn't bode well for the first real test of the run. Trial Captain Ilima, who ended my first Sun Nuzlocke attempt, so I was pretty wary going into this fight. But Naafiri soon alleviated my worries, because her fur coat ability has the damage from all incoming physical attacks, so after debuffing her foe's attack twice with Baby Doll Eyes, Naafiri could just sit back, relax, and keep her foot on the tackle button until Young Goose fell, drawing in Smeargle. Naafiri stayed in one more turn to debuff Smeargle's attack before dropping into the red and tagging out for Inkay. Vel'Koz shrugged off a tackle, then another before getting up a reflect that turned Smeargle's attacks into tickles. From there, Vel'Koz could just spam foul play, eventually netting us the win with 2 points of HP to spare. Vel'Koz will soon return to saving another battle, so commit that to memory. Trust me, by actually remembering what you watched, you will fill up 0.01% of the Malameter. What is the Malameter, you may ask? Well, I'll tell you once it's filled up, just remember to remember. Anyway, this crew of Mons is already proving they can brave Alola's toughest individuals, and I don't mean me and my frat boy fit. I mean this team is ready to take on Alola's hardest, lengthiest, and most infamous trial: the cutscene gauntlet. Listen, I get it, complaining about the cutscenes in a Gen 7 Pokemon game is about as overdone as a burnt steak. But you gotta admit there's a lot of them, right? It doesn't help that most of the cutscenes in this game are just a reprise of what happened in Sun and Moon. That's why I've neglected to mention any story beats so far. I would just be repeating observations I already made in my Sun video. Alola is beautiful, Lily is intriguing, Team Skull is lovable, Teacher Emily is a fake shooter. Hopefully the rest of the game can deliver, because honestly so far I'm having trouble justifying the need for Ultra Sun and Moon. Oh wait, they got the Blue Man group in this game? Never mind, that's game of the year. After snagging a random snake, I begin my first trial in the Verdant Cavern, which is nearly identical to how it was in Sun and Moon, with two notable differences. First, nobody on my Ultra Moon team can use the Brick Break TM. And second, Alolan Raticate is the Totem Pokemon this time. Naafiri leads off once again, working herself up and taking little damage from Raticate's bite. The Totem calls in its daughter, but thanks to her earlier attack gain, Naafiri could one-shot Rattata with a Silk Scarf boosted headbutt. The Totem then goes for Super Fang, so Naafiri turns her attention and the top of her head towards Raticate for good damage. The Totem uses Scary Face next, however, lowering Naafiri's speed enough for our foe to get the jump the following turn and flinch Naafiri with Bite. The misfortune continues as Naafiri's next headbutt fails to KO, while Raticate's next bite puts Naafiri into KO range. Alright, time for someone else to step in. Cassiopeia the Ekans intimidates the Totem, significantly reducing the damage from Bite, and although Raticate outspeeds and bites again the next turn, no flinch means Cassio can click Wrap to bring the Totem to precisely 1 microhair of HP. Raticate tries biting one last time, but can't stop the inevitable. Cass puts the finishing touches on our first trial, and officially puts the Totem Pokemon out of a job. Sorry Raticate, but look on the bright side, you could begin a new career, one with remote work opportunities or median salaries around $100,000 a year. Yeah, that perked you back up, didn't it? So what do you say to becoming a software developer? What's that? You don't know how to write code? Well, in that case, you can turn to this video's sponsor, Boot Boot.dev. Boot.dev is an innovative online learning platform that teaches you programming the fun way. By presenting it like a role-playing game, you'll complete professional courses designed by real software developers, all while earning EXP, conquering mighty bosses, and even cracking open a treasure chest or two. There are dozens of courses to choose from, and you'll be building projects in a variety of programming languages. You won't even need your Rotom Dex anymore when you can learn how to build your own Pokedex in TypeScript. There's more than just coursework on Boot.dev too. You can refine your coding skills by completing challenges in the training grounds, climb the daily leaderboards, consult the Wise Bear for advice if you get stuck, or just enjoy the dopamine rush you get every time you complete a lesson. You can get all this and more when you sign up for Boot.dev using my code TOADSLAME or by scanning the QR code on screen. You'll get 25% off your first year of Boot.dev if you use my code. Do it, the rat already has. Thank you once again to Boot.dev for sponsoring, and now let's throw it back to Alola. I won't be mentioning every single encounter I get in this Nuzlocke, just the important ones like Vladimir the Zubat in Verdant Cavern. Mentioning every encounter would just bloat this already lengthy script with more unnecessary information. One thing I would like to note, however, is the S.O.S encounter clause I put into the rules. If the first encountered Pokemon calls in a backup, all other Pokemon that appear during the same encounter will be eligible for a capture. I put this rule in place since some mons can only be found as backup, though sometimes the same Pokemon as the original will answer the call for aid, such as these two Spearow. They do hit pretty hard, so I need to swap out Cass. Please let me swap out my Ekans. Truly the Nuzlocke death of all time. Lilia the Cutiefly joined us in Melee Meadow and had a hand in putting my rival into a spin cycle before we returned to Iki Town to face off against the first of 4 island Kahunas. This battle against Hala is the perfect stage for Vladimir the Zubat to make his debut. He starts off strong with Wing Attack, but Machop's Revenge deals a lot of damage right back. Doesn't stop Vlad from burying Machop the following turn though. Makuhita drops in and fakes out, but Vlad's ability, Inner Focus, means he couldn't flinch even if he wanted to. Vlad responds with Wing Attack, then restores most of his health the following turn with Roost, which he learned via TM obtained on Route 3. Makuhita's 2 paltry hits of Arm Thrust aren't enough to deter Vlad from claiming another KO, sending in Hala's final Pokemon. But despite the advantageous type matchup, Vladimir is still in a really bad position here. He actually gets outsped by Crabrawler and takes a mighty chunk of damage from Pursuit, and if he tries switching out after that, well, we know what Pursuit does to Pokemon trying to switch out. So I opted to take Vlad out right now for Lilia the Cutiefly, which went smoothly as Crabrawler used Leer instead of a damaging move. Now it's up to Lilia to handle this crustacean. And she nearly does, landing a critical hit that barely missed the KO. Crabrawler, meanwhile, leers again, then gets healed to full by a potion. But Lilia's got momentum on her side. A second Draining Kiss puts Crabrawler at half, a third puts its health into the red, and after surviving a Pursuit, Lilia can land a 4th and final Draining Kiss to claim victory and the Phytinium Z Crystal. As promised, here's your reward payment of beans, Singed. More to come. Before heading to the next island, I evolved Singed into Brionne and stopped by 10 Carat Hill, an optional location I missed during my Sun playthrough. I didn't find any gold here, but I did snag Set the Machop and a Phytinium Z Crystal, the latter spawning in a white woman that emoted on me. Okay, time to head to the next island now. Ew! I hate Mantine Surf. I've never been a big fan of half pipes in video games. Even in one of my favorite games of all time, Wii Ski and Snowboard, I avoid the half pipe like the plague and prefer to experience the game as it's meant to be, a wipeout simulator. Doesn't help that Mantine Surf replaces one of the better Sun and Moon cutscenes that was also shorter than this tedious and protracted minigame. That's it. Take away the Game of the Year award and put the Ultra games into the incinerator. The 2 Industry Plant characters from Kalos briefly appeared and got brushed aside by Set the Machop's giant foot, leading us to Paniola Ranch. Alright, now this is a peak location. Great music and a Wild West aesthetic really go a long way. I also picked up 2 key encounters during this time. A new face in Nasus the Lillipup and a familiar one in Hecarim the Mudbray. Hecarim did a lot of dirty work in the Sunlock, so I'm excited to have him back for the Ultra Moonlock. It's also great to see Gladion again, though he's powerless against our early game queen, Nefiri. Seriously, Furfrou has been a revelation so far. That's the beauty of Nuzlocke though, isn't it? Giving the spotlight to Pokemon you'd otherwise overlook. I meant Pokemon that deserves the spotlight. Hey, remember those 2 Spearow who killed Cass the Ekans? If you do, congrats, fill up the Malameter. Anyway, I ended up catching one of them and named it Alawi, a fitting name given both annoy me greatly. But Fearow here is also our strongest current user of the Flyinium Z. Yes, even better than Vlad the Zubat. So she'll be tasked with downing the next Totem Pokemon. Alawi the Fearow begins by dropping a supersonic Sky Strike right onto Araquanid's head, nearly one-shotting it, while Araquanid's rain-boosted bubble took half of our health. Masquerain is called into action soon after, but is soon left all alone, as Alawi finished off Araquanid with Aerial Ace. Masquerain did connect with Stun Spore, but Alawi just switched out for Vladimir, who hit the field safely as Masquerain went for a Tailwind. Masquerain proceeded to whiff Stun Spore, letting Vlad get in a meaty hit, and although the flying insect did land Stun Spore the following turn, Vlad still slapped it silly across the face with his wing, netting us the Waterinium Z and the right to capture this Poliwag, who will be crucial in an upcoming trial. If there's one thing you can't deny about the 7th generation of Pokemon games, it's that it's got interesting NPCs. In what other game can you encounter a grown man dressed as a Hypno who gives you the rest TM after you donate $10? I also totally forgot about the mandatory #1 victory royale and entered the battle royale with the wrong lead Pokemon. Now I could have swapped out Lilia the Cutie Fly here, but I didn't. Yeah, I don't really have an excuse here, that was just dumb on my part. Sorry Lilia, I'll always be grateful for your work against Hala. Time for our team of Bean Eaters to receive a massive infusion of power. My Route 7 encounter was Magikarp, who evolved immediately into another alumnus of my Sun playthrough. Syndra is back to once again prove why Gyarados is the Tom Brady of Pokemon Nuzlocke. I also evolved Vladimir into Golbat, and had a very interesting Wella Volcano Park encounter. See, Magby was my original encounter, but it called in a Happiny for backup, so that egg Pokemon ended up as my actual capture. I've never used the Chansey line in a regular playthrough, like ever, so I'm interested to see what this pink blob can offer. On to trial number 3. The big difference here between Sun and Moon and the Ultra games is that Marowak is big boned now. It wants to rattle our bones. It has a bone to pick with us. It has a thick club, that's the difference. The thick club doubles Marowak's damage output, so naturally our first order of business is to relieve Marowak of its girthy bone. That's Nami the Poliwag's job. If you remembered me saying that this tadpole would play a crucial role, then congratulations, you just helped fill up the Malameter. Totodile and Marowak seems to sense our intentions, however, as it blocks Nami's first thief attempt with Detect. Salazzle then drops in and torments our tadpole, but Nami manages to successfully snatch Marowak's thick club this time, before eating a Brick Break. Unfortunately, Salazzle's subsequent Venoshock was too much for her, and our Poliwag soon fell. Thank you for your sacrifice, Nami. We won't let it go to waste. Hecarim the Mudbray hits the ground and gets blasted by a burst and wheel of flame, but he survives both hits, and hits back with a strong bulldoze that does get disabled by Marowak's cursed body, but also one-shots Salazzle. That sets the stage for our starter to wrap things up. Singed tanks Hex valiantly, then Brick Break as well, before unleashing a brutal Hydro Vortex that secures us the win. That almost secures us the win. Singe has to eat one more Brick Break, but does manage to actually KO the totem this time, securing the win, for real. Time for some more Sun and Moon throwbacks. Colress is still playing Roblox on his forearm, and on Route 8 I encountered another familiar face. Rakan, the Peaky-Peck / Trumbeak / Toucanon was the first Pokemon I caught in my Sun Nuzlocke, and aided me all the way through the Pokemon League, but I've already established Vladimir the now Crobat as my flying type of choice, so Rakan unfortunately won't be contributing all that much in this playthrough. Unless of course Vlad dies or something. Anyway, after evolving Sona into Chansey, I can move on to Ultra Moon. Why do you keep railroading optional features into the main story? It ruins pacing and makes players feel more antagonistic towards optional content, even if it might actually be good. Hey Game Freak, you didn't do this with the Pokeathlon, and that's one of the many reasons why it's goated, but you did do it for Pokestar Studios, and that's why it got unfairly maligned, despite being a really in-depth and interesting side mode. So don't do it. It's dumb. Like this dumbass voice I'm doing. Previous trials in this game felt like doing the Sun and Moon trials again, but while wearing a slightly different hat. Ooh. But the Lush Jungle trial actually felt like a neat spin on the original, whereas the SM trial was a scavenger hunt. The U-Sum version is a pick the odd one out puzzle. A pleasant change, and I would say this is around the point where my opinion of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon stopped trending down and started trending more positively. That's right, you can turn off the incinerator now. One thing that didn't change was the totem Pokemon, Lurantis, who started off the battle with a weak X-Scissor while Vladimir the Crobat crit right back with Cross Poison. That held Scope Lens is putting in work, but the totem would soon summon an ally whose Flower Shield healing combined with Lurantis' own synthesis made this battle a slog. After trying my hand at another cross poison only to get most of it healed off, I decided to pivot my strategy a bit and make Vlad use Confuse Ray. Lurantis smacked itself silly in confusion and then got rocked by cross poison. Meanwhile, Comfey used Sunny Day. Lurantis would hit itself in the face again, allowing Vladimir to finish off the totem. He then set his sights on Comfey.
Pitiful creature.
And deleted that stupid thing off the face of the planet with a crit. Screw you, Comfey, I'll never forgive you for what you did to Pokemon Unite. That's the 4th trial completed and the Gracium Z acquired. Big shoutouts to Vlad the Crobat and to Professor Kukui for gifting me TM67. After getting flashed by the sky's butt crack, we're off to Coney, which means passing through Diglett's tunnel. I have fond memories of this place as I encountered a shiny Diglett here in my Sun playthrough. I didn't find any shinies this time, but I did find a Larvitar. My initial thoughts was, holy crap, how rare is this? Turns out not that rare. Now this Larvitar may be female, but I'm still gonna name it Malphite, because the construct of gender is irrelevant when it comes to what's truly important in life, deleting the enemy with your ult. We finally arrive in Coney City, which is as great in Chinese as I remember. But the Kahuna's out of town, so we gotta go find her. On the way there, we beat down Team Skull's Plumeria with ease, evolve Set into Machoke, and acquire 2 fun new encounters. The first is Gangplank the Wingull, who will acquire the Drizzle ability once he evolves into Pelipper, and open up the door for some fun rain shenanigans. The second Pokemon of note is actually someone who died in the Sunlock, but who I'm bringing back in this Ultra Moonlock. Karthus the Ghastly, fitting for a ghost to ignore death. Unfortunately, Karthus comes at a much later level this time, so he doesn't have Hypnosis, and won't be able to learn it until we reach the move tutor on Mount Lanakilla. So yeah, he won't be doing all that much, including against the next Kahuna. Olivia opens the fight with her Anorith and its Bug Bite, but Cinch blows up the fossil Pokemon with a single Sea Incense boosted Bubble Beam. That drags in Leap, and in turn, Sona the Chansey, who can set up shop with Sweet Kisses and minimize spam galore. As a special attacker, Lileep can't leave much of a dent on our pink blob, and that's only if it can break through its continuous confusion. Unfortunately, Sona also doesn't do that much damage herself, as the only damaging move she knows is Grass Knot via TM. So it took many turns for Sona to whittle down Lileep low enough. But once that happened, Cinder could tag in, face tank an Ancient Power, and finish off Lileep with Ice Fang. That just leaves Olivia's ace Lycanroc, whom Hecarim can switch into relatively safely on a Rock Tomb. Though a Bite leaves him worse for wear, Hecarim can still land a crucial Bulldoze that deals good damage and drop Lycanroc's speed enough for Set to swoop in. He tanks a Bite, tanks another, and finishes off the freakish Rock Dog thing with an all-out pummeling. Rockium Z acquired, as well as more beans. I told you I was gonna pay you handsomely cinched. We are finally starting to see some more significant story changes in Ultra Moon, such as during the first Aether Paradise visit. And by that, I mean they hastily stapled the Ultra Recon squad onto every important cutscene. It is jarring, but at least the blue people helped to establish Ultra Wormholes and Ultra Beasts early on in the plot. But who cares about that? We're headed to the best island in Alola, baby! Love me some Mali City. If I could pick one place to vacation in Alola, it would be this Bamboo Paradise, or Vast Pony Canyon. I'd kill to listen to that banger BGM while getting torn in half by Totem Como-o. Mali City is also home to one of the few notable HOW battles in the game. I've skimmed past our past fights, but it's different here. Instead of repeating the process for 3 of HOW's Pokemon, we did it for 5 of HOW's Pokemon. Hey, Hecarim did evolve into Mudstail afterwards, so it has to mean something. Mali City to Mount Hokulani is my favorite stretch of Alola, and fortunately this split also gifted me a massive influx of new encounters. But I only want to highlight one of them. I experienced tragedy in my Sunlock when I lost my Magneton at Mali Garden, so it's fitting that in the northern reaches of that same city, I would come face to face with my floating friend once again. Welcome back to the show, Blitzcrank. You're here just in time for the main event at Hokulani Observatory, a place that features free Z crystals and the Wario and Waluigi door. The Sun version of Sophocles' trial was, in my opinion, the hardest in the game, mainly because I lacked a strong answer for Vikavolt. But there's a new Totem Pokemon in town, or on the mountain, Togedemaru. Having learned firsthand just how strong this electric rodent was in my Sunlock, I made a lot of preparations for this totem fight. Seriously, I evolved like 4 Pokemon and rearranged my entire team just for this trial, only for a certain horse to render most of my preparations moot. Hecarim the Mudstail did take a minor beating during the trial against Elekid, but activated his Quick Claw against Electabuzz and one-shot it, putting himself in good health against the Totem, whose spiky shield blocked Hecarim's first high horsepower, dealing a bit of damage to us shortly before the Totem's best friend Skarmory made its appearance. But Hecarim is on a gambler's high right now and also might have paid off Skarmory, as he triggers his Quick Claw and sends Togedemaru's health into the red. The Totem is forced to consume its held Citrus Berry before landing a soft Iron Head that gives Hecarim a defense boost via stamina. Scar meanwhile barfs stealth rocks everywhere. Hecarim would get another attack blocked by Spiky Shield, but remember, Malameter, Hecarim paid off Skarmory, and the bird is determined to throw this battle. First, it missed Steel Wing. Togedemaru then unleashed its Iron Head to flinch Hecarim, but Skarmory continued throwing the battle by missing another Steel Wing. Togedemaru's the only one dealing any damage here, since Skarmory's been paid off to fix the match. So of course, when the totem puts our horse into KO range, Skarmory opts to use Torment instead of a damaging move, allowing Hecarim's high horsepower to boot the totem Pokemon out of the battle. But Skarmory only has show to deal with Hecarim, meaning it can start trying again once Set the Machamp appears. Skarm finally lands a Steel Wing, survives Set's all-out pummeling, then lands another Steel Wing. But it's cool, Set has got this one in the bag, landing one final giant foot that... Uh-oh. Thankfully, Set survives the Steel Wing crit with 11 hit points to spare, allowing him to finish off Skarmory the following turn and net us yet another Z Crystal. Now, are there any more Charger Bug puzzles for me to do? These were actually kind of fun. I wish there were more of them. Speaking of more, it's the big bad guy who's gonna beat you down again and again till you can't get up. It's Guzma. What a breath of fresh air this guy is for Pokemon villain team leaders. Too bad he's a user of bug types, which means his entire team is Vladimir's lunch. We also get some intriguing Ultra Recon lore. These guys live in a world without any light, since the legendary Pokemon Necrozma stole it all. And though they did manage to seal Necrozma away in some random tower, the beast is dangerously close to breaking free and stealing the light from Alola. This explains why the Ultra Recon people are so intent on researching Alola and forming connections with its people in hopes of preventing Necrozma's return, even if it means closely observing a child. Mali City to Hokulani Observatory is my favorite stretch of Alola, but the rugged sandy path from Mali to the 6th trial is not far behind. And it's even better in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, because Magneton can now evolve into Magnezone at Blush Mountain. No need to wait until Vast Pony Canyon anymore. Speaking of evolutions, Sona evolved into Blissey just in time for the Ghost trial. It's virtually unchanged from how it was in Sun and Moon, with one loud exception. But the trial was already so enthralling originally that I can let it slide. This abandoned supermarket was also the only place where I ended up using Karthus de Gengar in this entire run, for the sole purpose of mowing down his brethren. How morbid. Well, your art is amazing. Do you take commissions? Totem Mimikyu is a tough nut to crack, since you need to break its disguise before doing anything. But Nasus the Stoutland, whose Intimidate ability weakened Mimikyu's play rough, managed to accomplish that, snapping Mimikyu's neck before its buddy showed up. That's Syndra the Gyarados' cue to take the field, hitting Mimikyu with another Intimidate and making its play rough more of a play soft. Unfortunately, as punishment for my script writing, Syndra is burned by Banette's Will-O-Wisp. Still, I keep Syndra on the field, as she can tank another play rough and get off some chip damage. Banette drives a nail into its head and curses us, which, combined with the residual burn damage, takes Syndra down to just 24 HP remaining. It's looking to me like it's switching time. So I bring in Blitzcrank the Magnezone. All that earlier setup with my 2 Intimidators was so Blitz could run roughshod through the rest of the battle. Blitz tanks a play rough, a feet attack, and a Shadow Claw easy peasy, then rips through the totem Pokemon with Corkscrew Crash. Banette is left all alone to fend for its life, which Blitzcrank extinguishes handily to claim us yet another W. Singed becomes a Primarina again after putting Plumeria through the ringer, but we soon learn that a young goose has been kidnapped by Team Skull, meaning it's off to Po Town. Since we'll be facing off against a lot of random trainers on the way there, I thought this was a good opportunity to let some of the less powerful party members get some time in the sun, like Nefiri the Furfru. She was arguably our best early game team member, but has fallen off considerably since then. Or maybe not as much as I thought, because it turns out Sylph Scarf boosted headbutts still hit pretty damn hard. Ain't that right, Nefiri? No, not Nefiri. She's like the only death in this run I've actually cared about. But alas, a death is a death, and our early game MVP won't be able to shepherd us any further. Rest easy, Nefiri. Hey, check out this dancing bird. Oricorio is an interesting Pokemon with 4 forms. Too bad it's only staying in 1. Kiana here will be staying in her Bile form, as I literally have no other fire types on hand. So yeah, Kiana's remaining fire flying type until I eventually remedy that woe. Damn, Team Skull, you live like this? Editor, slap what I said about Po Town in my Sun video onto this one. I have basically the same sentiments as back then. This place was honestly unlike anything I've seen before in a Pokemon game. The perpetual downpour and the surprisingly somber music make Po Town feel one of a kind compared to other Pokemon towns, and does a great job of making these goofballs actually seem intimidating for once. I can't say they're broke though, because they got 2 Wii U's and 6 Wiimotes lying around in their home base. Hold up, there is one notable difference between Sun and Moon's Po Town and Ultra Sun and Moon's Po Town. The consoles and remotes are black now. Kiana the Oricorio got her first lick of action against Guzma at the Shady House, and she made the most of it, sending Galizapod packing by activating its emergency exit, one-tapping Pinsir with Supersonic Sky Strike, and finishing off Galizapod once it crawled back into view. Kiana then bowed out for Vladimir, who styled on Masquerain for the W. Guzma handed back the stolen Yungoos, but it turns out the kidnapping was a ploy for Lily's kidnapping, or peaceful surrender to Plumeria, who took her to the Aether Paradise to see her mother, Lusamine. Gladian crashes out upon learning about this and has to get mopped up by us before settling down, and Kahuna Nanu shows up too to get rocked and give us the Darkium Z before piecing off. Time to finally storm the Aether Paradise and beat 10 million Aether employees and also lord over Guzma again. Alright, who cares? Let's finally talk about the elephant in the room. I am referring to the most significant story change in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, not counting the giant nightlight. I'm of course talking about Lusamine and her new motivations. Lusamine's core tenets in Sun and Moon were her idolization of the ideal and desire for control. Her flawed ideal of a family led to her overbearing control over Lily's life. Her flawed ideal of beauty led to her turning innocent Pokemon into eternal ice sculptures. And her obsession with the Ultra Beasts ultimately led to her desire to control them herself. But in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Lusamine's controlling nature is instead directed towards her new goal of saving the beautiful world she cherishes from Necrozma. But what about the abuse that Gladian and Lily suffered? Why is that being downplayed now? And if Lusamine's intentions are more noble this time, why does she still need to collect all those ice sculptures? It kind of feels like her character arc has been rewritten without much thought, and is thus undermining her character, and in turn Lily and Gladian's character arcs. But just because Lusamine's considerably less mad and probably worse written, doesn't mean she still can't throw hands. Not with her lead Clefable though. That thing couldn't even land a damaging hit before getting packed up in a hurry with 2 quick cross poisons. But her next Pokemon, Bewear, does do considerably more, critting with its second hit of Dual Chop to take Set to around half health. But our 4-armed friend gets the jump the following turn and burns his Z move to ensure Bewear goes down in one blow. Next up is Lilligant, so I bring Vlad back in on a Petal Dance. He has to use Cross Poison here instead of Acrobatics because he's holding a Lumberry, but Vlad has little issue dispatching Lilligant before Lopunny takes its place. I was expecting a Ice Punch or Thunder Punch here, so I swapped and Blitzcranked the Magnezone, but Lopunny instead went for Dizzy Punch, which would have been fine had it not also confused Blitz. Lopunny then went for another weak Dizzy Punch, even though it could have hit Blitz super effectively with Fire Punch, and Crank took advantage of the opportunity by paralyzing the foe with Thunder Wave. I then swapped in Set, expecting Fire Punch this time, but Lopunny went for Ice Punch? Why would you throw in an Ice Punch when you're expecting to hit a Magnezone? Oh, that's why. It's because you're hacking. With Set frozen, Blitzcrank returns right back to where we were a second ago. And for free as well, because Lopunny is paralyzed. Blitz then dropped a Discharge to half Lopunny's HP, and again, the bunny is allergic to clicking super effective moves, opting for Dizzy Punch again. But no confusion this time means Blitzcrank can finally dispatch the troublesome thing the following turn. In comes Milotic, whom Cinch the Primarina can handle with ease. He does take a good chunk of damage from Hydro Pump on the way in, but 2 of his subsequent 3 Moon Blasts get special attack drops on our foe, turning all of Milotic's future Hydro Pumps into puddle squirts. And that 3rd Singed Moon Blast ends up KOing Milotic, netting us the win over Lusamine. Too bad we still can't stop her from going into Ultra Space and giving Necrozma a stern talking to. The Ultra Recon guys show up to basically say, damn, that Lusamine woman was crazy, huh? And Lily gets a much improved outfit, before we return to the trial challenge and arrive at Umamusume Island, Pony Island. Beautiful place. Anyway, time to get split in half by the totem. Como-O is a potential run ender in Usum, because it holds a Roselli Berry to weaken incoming fairy moves, and has actual threatening friends that can call for aid, including a fast and screeching Noivern. That is why for the first time in this entire run, I actually bothered to click Haze on Vlad. This move erases all stat bonuses, including the +1 boost to all of Kommo-O's stats it received at the start of the fight. That lets Vlad the Crobat survive the totem's Thunder Punch moments before it calls in its buddy Noivern. That's my cue to bring in Nasus the Stoutland. Remember him from the Mimikyu totem fight? If you do, bump up that Malameter. Nasus's purpose here is threefold. First, his job is to intimidate the totem and further weaken its damage output, which Nasus accomplishes, but he has to tank a Screech plus Thunder Punch combo in the process. Second, Nasus has to cripple Kommo-O's speed with Thunder Wave, which he also accomplishes after surviving Noivern's Air Slash, but that unfortunately leads me to Nasus's third purpose in this fight. Despite healing a bit of health with a Citrus Berry, Nasus is still fated to die, falling to Kommo-O's Drain Punch. Pour one out for the big dog, because without his sacrifice, we wouldn't be able to pull off what's next. Singed hops into battle and shrugs off Noivern's defense-lowering Screech to hammer the totem with a strong Moonblast. Doesn't kill though, because, you know, Roselli Berry. However, Totemo's at -1 attack, meaning its super effective Poison Jab can't KO. Singed does get poisoned, but restores a bit of HP with its held Citrus Berry. Honestly, the Citrus Berry might be this Nuzlocke's strongest MVP candidate. Anyway, Singed weathers a Noivern Boom Burst before finally dispatching Kommo-O the following turn, allowing Singed to swim in and one-shot Noivern with Ice Fang to complete the penultimate trial of Ultra Moon. Time to save Lily's mom. Wow, that was easy. We didn't even need to... Necrozma has escaped confinement, bursting through Ultra Space into our world to put Lunala into a headlock and fusing with it for the simple reason of Game Freak needed something to put onto the Ultra Sun and Moon game boxes. Necrozma Dawn Power Wash is a non-threat though, going down to 2 quick crunches from Syndra. Still, it pulls a Nosferatu by turning out the lights for the entire Alola region before escaping through Ultra Space. The Blue Man group reappears to confirm that Necrozma has absorbed all of the light in Alola, and that we need to track it down before it can steal any more light and grow even more powerful. With the aid of the Ultra Recon Squad's Solgaleo, it's up to us, wielders of the Z Crystals, to find and defeat Necrozma and also play a really bad minigame. Why are all the minigames in this game so bad? We eventually track down our foe at the same tower that once imprisoned it, located in the Ultra Metropolis. So we climb up the winding staircase of Megalo Tower before finally coming face to face with one of the most powerful bosses in the entire Pokemon franchise. A Nuzlocke ender so infamous that you could argue it alone gives Ultra Sun and Moon its infamous difficulty reputation. Ultra Necrozma. Y'all don't seriously think I'm going into this battle blind, right? For the record, I wasn't spoiled by my own volition. When you hang around the Pokemon sphere for a long time, you're gonna be subjected to spoilers. So yeah, I've heard all about what this powerhouse Pokemon can do, and all the ways to subjugate it. You can cheese the fight with Zoroark's Illusion, though I don't have my own Zorua on hand. You could also try the Fear Strat, Focus Sash, Endeavor, Quick Attack, Rattata, but I also never captured that Pokemon either, successfully at least. So as for how we're actually gonna handle Necrozma, I honestly don't know. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else who made sure to remember, thank you. Because with your help, we have finally filled the Malameter and earned the right to summon the Malamaster himself. Vel'Koz did 2 things of note in this entire Nuzlocke. First was finishing off Ilima, and second was turning Ultra Necrozma onto its head. Literally. Because after Vel'Koz survived Ultra Necrozma's opening salvo, he consumed his held Citrus Berry and proceeded to turn this whole thing upside down with Topsy-Turvy. I would not blame you if you've never heard of this move, but basically it reverses all of the foe's stat changes. So if, say, Ultra Necrozma were to receive an Omni boost before the battle, Topsy-Turvy would flip that +1 boost to every stat into a -1 drop in every stat. Yep, the infamous Ultra Necrozma can essentially be nullified if you get a squid to flip it upside down. And that allows another team member from earlier in the run to return, Sona. Now evolved into Blissey, she can easily switch into Necrozma's -1 Dragon Pulse, valiantly tank a Smart Strike, consume her Citrus Berry, and shove a big Globotoxic down its throat. Okay, she missed the first one, but she did land the second one, don't worry. Necrozma is now suffering from bad poison in addition to reduced stats, and gets further humiliated by Blitzcrank the Magnezone, whose steel typing allows him to resist every one of Ultra Necrozma's moves. Even an uber powerful Photon Geyser isn't enough to deter Blitzcrank from corkscrew crashing his foe low enough for the residual toxic damage to finish off Ultra Necrozma. See ya later, you giant nightlight. Necrozma lost its light. Big whoop I already did years ago. With Necrozma successfully defeated and Lily and Lucamine's character arcs successfully assassinated, but let's not talk about that right now, we can finally take on the 8th and final trial of Ultra Moon. It's a brand new one where we have to fight Mina, and her battle uses the original Sun and Moon battle theme. I smiled so hard when I first heard this. Then I smiled even more when I defeated Mina and learned that her actual trial involves returning to previous trial sites and battling the captains. Do you know what that means? It means it's boss rush time, baby. Uh-oh, did somebody say boss rush? We're going back and beating everybody. Well, not everybody, because you only actually fight like 4 captains. Some of them are version exclusive, and then you don't even fight some of them in each other version. But it doesn't matter, it's still a boss rush, baby. Each defeated trial captain gives us a different color to petal, which Mina assembles into a pretty rainbow flower that lures in the final totem Pokemon, Ribombee. This thing is fast and hits hard, but you wouldn't know it seeing its dazzling gleam bounce off of Kiana's head. Oricorio responded with a strong air slash before Ribombee called in a Blissey for support. The totem then used Quiver Dance to boost its special attack, special defense, and speed by 1 stage each, putting Ribombee in pole position to begin a deadly sweep. Unfortunately for the totem, Kiana's ability Dancer allows her to copy those Quiver Dance boosts and knock out Ribombee with a supercharged supersonic Sky Strike. Kiana then U-turned out for Set, who delivered his big foot into Blissey's big pink belly, ending the final trial in our favor. And that just leaves the final Kahuna. Weirdly, Hapu has a lower level cap than the totem Pokemon, but I decided to just follow the totem's level cap for the sake of, dude, can you stop looking at me with them big ol' eyes? You may remember me mentioning Gangplank the Wingull earlier in the run. Don't bother checking the Malameter anymore, we've already used up all the reserves. Anyway, I evolved Gangplank into Pelipper and used him against some of the trial captains to great success, so why not bring him back for the Hapu fight as well? GP set up the rain with his Drizzle ability, set up Tailwind, and U-turned out for Singed, who did take a bit of damage from Stealth Rock and Golurk's subsequent Shadow Punch, but still managed to run amok. Singed dropped an Oceanic Operetta onto Golurk's head, then against Hapu's Mudsdale, he landed a big critical hit to one-shot it as well. Singed even survived Flygon's Earth Power and collected a 3rd kill with Moonblast. He couldn't stay in against Hapu's final Pokemon, but Sindra could switch in
Such power!
and easily topple Gastrodon with a critical hit Aqua Tail, securing us victory over the final Kahuna of Alola. You know what that means. Mount Lanakilla received a major upgrade between SM and USUM. It's basically a whole new location now, packed to the brim with strong Pokemon, strong trainers, new breathtaking scenery, and this bozo. Oh, I'm sorry, did you get addicted to the light? Oh, did somebody get addicted to light? Oh. Okay, enough messing around. It's League time, and I don't mean that dog shit game. I mean one of the toughest Elite Fours in series history, boasting well-crafted teams with actual movesets and EVs allocated. We're gonna need a star-studded roster to take on Alola's best, and I've got 6 pokes right here who are up to the task. Singed the Primarina already went through his whole character arc back in the Sun video, so it's kind of fitting that he's been a lot less needed in Ultra Moon. I was mashing Oceanic Operetta non-stop back in Sun. Meanwhile, I can count the number of times I clicked that Z move in this run on one hand. Still, Singed has Moonblast, nullifies Dragon moves, and has Encore, so he'll find a way to be useful against the Elite Four. Sindra the Gyarados is the only other Pokemon from the Sunlock Elite Four squad who will also be on my Ultra Moonlock Elite Four squad. Chalk that up to her great ability, variety of attacks, and Dragon Dance. Yeah, you know, Tom Brady, whatever. Set the Machamp has been delivering giant feet to the faces of evil throughout this video, and that's not stopping anytime soon. Plus, thanks to his no
guard ability, his dynamic punch is a 100% accurate, 100 base power stab attack with a guaranteed chance to confuse. Set's an equal opportunist. He can beat you down with both his hands and his feet. If there's one Pokemon who consistently surpassed my expectations throughout the run, and is still with us, it would be Kahuna the Oricorio. She's fast and hits hard with Air Slash and Rev Dance, and is also here by virtue of being my only fire type acquired in the entire challenge. Blitzcrank the Magnezone perished early in my Sun playthrough, but really returned with a vengeance in Ultra Moon. I do find it kind of funny though how Blitz has basically served the same role as my Steel Electric Pokemon from last time, except he hits specially instead of physically like Togedemaru. Typing's just that good, I guess. And finally, we're letting the Behemoth loose. After sitting on the sidelines waiting for her turn to wreak havoc, Malphite, the newly evolved Tyranitar, is ready to sit on the bench some more. Yeah, after running some calcs, that's short for calculations by the way, I concluded that Hecarim the Mudsdale is a more valuable pick against the Elite Four than Tyranitar. It mainly came down to How's Raichu knowing Focus Blast, which one-shots T-Tar. Meanwhile, Hecarim does not go down in a single hit to the Alolan Rat, and is useful against 3 of the 4 elites due to his mono-ground typing and immense physical bulk. So it's Heck who will be rounding out my squad of 6. A strong, excellent bunch who I have the utmost confidence in to conquer Alola's league. Let's start off with the easiest Elite Four member and work our way up to the hardest. Sorry Acerola, I like how you go 3, but you are also fodder for Syndra the Gyarados. Syndra is completely unfazed by Banette's attempts to halt her Dragon Dances. Shadow Claw, Screech, another Shadow Claw, none of that is enough to stop Syndra from consuming her held citrus and sitting pretty at +3 attack and speed. Those boosts allow her to run through all of Acerola's ghosts, one-shotting each and every one of them to net us our first win against Alola's Elite Four. The second member, Olivia, was also a cakewalk. It was Set's turn to sweep, and he did so easily by setting up in Armaldo's face. Armaldo did get 2 defense drops with Crush Claw, but they just nullified the defense boosts gained from Bulk Up. Meanwhile, Set got to keep his +2 attack boost, and he used that to run roughshod through Olivia's entire team. He one-shot Armaldo and Credilli, and although he couldn't do so against Probopass due to its sturdy ability, he had nothing to worry about. Probopass's T-Wave was promptly cured by Set's held Cherry Berry, allowing him to muscle through Probopass, Lycanroc, and Gigalith to secure another stress-free win. Now, we reach the 2 remaining Elite Four members who we can't sweep as easily. First up, Kahili. I hope I'm not alone in saying she's my favorite character design in Alola. Kahili's lead Braviary crushes Blitzcrank with its claws, but not really, as Blitz fires off a discharge that somehow fails to KO. Doesn't matter, however, as Kahili pops to full restore, only for Blitz to amend his error and one-shot Braviary properly this time. That summons in Hawlucha, who chops at Blitz's non-existent throat before our Steel-type Volt switches out for Syndra. Yes, that one Volt switch was enough to also KO Hawlucha. That means Syndra and Mandibuzz can face off at full health. Syndra boos first, flinching Mandibuzz with Ice Fang, then delivering another solid blow before getting confused by Mandibuzz's flatter. But in this war between queens, Syndra comes out on top as she ignores her confusion to deliver one more Ice Fang. That somehow fails to KO. Doesn't matter, however, as Mandibuzz goes for her Brave Bird and knocks itself out with the recoil damage. Now expecting a Beak Blast, I bring back Blitz, but instead receive Toucannon's Supersonic Sky Strike, which is more like a super silly tickled touch. Toucannon doesn't have an easy KO here, so it opts for a Screech, but that's tantamount to throwing away its life, as it allows Blitzcrank to pop his own Z move and delete the bird with Gigavolt Havoc. All that's left is Kahili's Oricorio, whom Singed can switch into freely and dispatch with Sparkling Aria. That's 3 Elite Four members down. 1 to go, and I saved the trickiest for last. He's also the only new Elite Four member in the Ultra games, the Steel Specialist, Mullane. His lead Klefki is very annoying, thanks to its Prankster ability, giving it increased priority to its status moves. But for some reason, Klefki used its sole weak attacking move instead, meaning after a Revelation Dance, Kiana finds herself in an amazing position. She's holding a Cherry Berry, meaning that if Klefki goes for his expected Thunder Wave next turn, it will be nullified and Kiana can knock out her foe while remaining totally healthy. Unfortunately, it is I, Toadzame, who is piloting this battle, so naturally I greeted by going for Calm Mind. This resulted in Klefki following up with Thunder Wave as as expected, our berry curing paralysis, and then Klefki reapplying the Thunder Wave the following turn before Kahuna finally downed the Boo Boo keys. If you ever wanted proof to not do your Nuzlocks after midnight, this is it. That Calm Mind was extra useless because Mullane then sent out his Magnezone, necessitating a switch from Kahuna to Hecarim on an ineffective Thunderbolt. Mag moves first the following turn, landing a strong Flash Cannon while Hecarim fails to KO with Earthquake because of Sturdy. Mullane pops a full restore that gets completely nullified by another EQ, but then Hecarim has to tank yet another Flash Cannon and eat his handy emergency Citrus Berry before finally knocking out Mag, and that puts him face to face with Metagross. A normally daunting task, but you gotta remember, Hecarim's ability Stamina grants him a defense boost after he takes damage from an attack. Doesn't have to be a physical attack, any damaging move will do. So those two Flash Cannons he tanked earlier have actually brought him up to +2 defense, allowing him to easily tank Metagross's Meteor Mash and then go up to +3 defense. Simply put, Hecarim is actually in a very comfortable position here. But Hecarim says, nah, the most comfortable position is when my foe is dead. He one-hit KOs Metagross, and suddenly the Z move I plan to use against that thing can go to someone else. Not Dugtrio. Syndra can easily switch into that thing and one-tap it with Aqua Tail. I mean Mullane's final Pokemon. Set definitely didn't need to pop his Z move here against the 4 times weak to fighting Bisharp. But hey, why not? It's the final attack we'll be throwing out against the Elite Four, because after Bisharp gets utterly eviscerated, we can officially claim victory over Alola's league. Actually, there is one more trainer we have to face, and it ain't Professor Kukui this time, cool as that was in Sun and Moon. No, our final challenger in Pokemon Ultra Moon is a fellow league challenger, our rival since the beginning, that guy. How's Alolan Raichu opens the final fight with a bang, critting Hecarim with Psychic. Our horse hangs on though and consumes his held citrus before quaking the earth and rendering Raichu deceased. Next up is Crabominable, who drops an Ice Hammer that rips through our health bar. Fortunately, Blitzcrank is the one taking the hit, and he proceeds to one-shot the crab with Flash Cannon. Then there's Tauros. We first have to bring in Syndra not just to nullify Earthquake, but to lower Tauros' attack with Intimidate. This is so Set can tag in without getting his socks rocked off by Double Edge. Two of them actually, as Tauros outspeeds the turn after, but Set hangs on with exactly 4 points of health remaining before delivering a dynamic punch that blows Tauros out of the water, drawing in Noivern, who is fast and hits hard with double air slashes but can't stop Singed from sending an entire moon into its cranium. How's penultimate poke is Leafeon, which is Kiana's cue to enter the battle. Yep, the whole team is taking turns in the final battle. Baby Doll Eyes do nothing to deter Kiana's Revelation Dance from one-rounding Leafeon, leaving one final Pokemon for us to defeat, How's Incineroar. An emblem of my previous failed attempt, huh? How fitting. But no match for Syndra the Gyarados, who enters the battle via Kiana's U-turn and eats a Darkest Lariat like a champ. Syndra does have to use Dragon Dance here to get the firepower necessary for a KO, meaning she'll need to survive one more hit before we can put this battle to rest. But she does, living through another Darkest Lariat, munching down on her held Citrus Berry for good measure, and delivering a final decisive Aqua Tail that ends this run for good. We have officially beaten a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Ultra Moon. Thank you all for watching to the end, and big thanks to all the channel members for their continued support. If you want to have your name show up in a Toad Boy vid, join now. Or not, your call. Also, I do plan to eventually tackle Ultra Sun and Moon's extensive post-game, namely the Rainbow Rocket Saga, but due to time constraints and developing foot blisters during the production of this video, I'm gonna save that extra content for a separate video. Maybe. I don't expect that other video to perform well, but we'll see. And finally, even after all the criticisms I gave throughout the video, I'd still say I enjoyed Ultra Moon. I don't think it ranks higher than the original Sun and Moon, by virtue of it being the follow-up as well as some other glaring flaws.
Ice is nice.
But the Ultra games are definitely still worthwhile even almost a decade after release. So yeah, you can officially move the games away from the fire.